In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Oh man, so glad I made it here. I always seem to make it here before Jack Hansen. Why is that? Does he not have a watch? Does he not know how to tell time? I think I see him. Is that him? No, that's not him. Okay. All right.
How could you possibly mistake me for someone else?
Oh man, you scared me.
How could you possibly mistake someone else for me, I should say?
Oh man. He was wearing a different colored fedora, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going for kind of like coffee shop camouflage today.
Oh, yeah, you blend in very well with that wallpaper, I must say.
Yeah.
Is that a new sports coat?
Yes, I got the Jacquard blazer out since spring is here. It's a little chilly, actually.
Oh,
windy,
man.
rainy.
So yeah, you actually did beat me here. I just didn't see you. I was too busy checking the balance of my hush money account.
How's that going, by the way?
You know, it's so far so good. I don't know how much money though to keep in the said hush money account. I mean, how much money does one keep in the hush money account? Is there ever a right answer for that?
I think it just depends. I would probably convert it to a different currency, too.
Yeah.
Like, look into something more exotic, I guess, drachma, but they don't trade that anymore. So, you want to hear something interesting? This is an interesting fact about Jack Hansen. When my father was into all kinds of schemes. My father's like the potential subject for like 1,200 podcasts.
King of schemes.
I could literally hire a psychologist tomorrow and say, I want to work on my father issues for the rest of my life. We'd have something to talk about. I mean, he was a fascinating man. He invented several things that you see and use every day, believe it or not. But he was also a bit of a sociopath, and there was a darker side to him. Anyway, all that said, for being as intelligent as he was absolutely the most gullible human being on earth. Like, he would get into these midnight conversations sitting around Denny's, talking to these crazy characters, and they'd sell him on the dumbest things. Like, I remember him and his brother even got into the Rumpelstiltskin machine. Where they found that guy that literally said he could turn like rocks into gold. And they invested thousands with this idiot. So give you the kind of like split personality that he was. But one of the things that I think is interesting to note about him in all of that, I suppose. I don't remember where I was going with this, quite honestly.
It was hush money. It was hush money to Jack Hansen's father issues.
So when he died, it was amazing because my grandmother had just passed away just right before that. And I actually got a little bit of inheritance. He actually left everything to my brother, but my brother, I'm not sure what happened there, but my brother called me and said, hey, it's bullshit. You're getting half because you were his son and you should get half. So anyway, I got half of what he had left. And I was shocked he had any money because he was the kind of guy that always spent every last nickel. But one of the things that was in his safe deposit box, and my brother was kind of a different story in all this too, because he's expecting there to be rubies and jewels.
Yeah.
And, this incredible,
like a gold bar from Nazi Germany.
And I'm just like laughing my ass off because I'm like, you're forgetting who our father was. If he had anything like that, it's long since been pawned, sold, gone. There's nothing in there. There was a few things in there. And one of the things that apparently somebody talked him into, it had to have been a guy again at the coffee shop like us or Denny's at 3 a.m, got to talking to him about the Iraqi dinar, which is the currency that they devalued. They literally just said it's not worth anything anymore because when Operation whichever one it was, when they came in and finally took over.
Operation Iron Eagle.
Yeah, Operation Louis Gossett Jr., Operation Bouchard here. They devalued the currency, and it's essentially worthless. So I have in my possession, my brother and I split the Iraqi dinar that he had, and this is going to sound like a lot because they trade in huge. It's kind of like won in Korea or Taiwan. I think Korea has the won, and they're really big monetary units. It's like the yen, where it's just how much is this bag of
10,000.
5,000 yen. It's oh my God. But it's not dollars to them. It's like $5. So I believe I have in my possession, if I'm not mistaken, something on order of 25 million Iraqi dinar.
So you're a millionaire.
Which I could exchange at the bank. The last time I checked was years ago, but I think I could get a cool $950 American for it. So it's actually not worth less. But he purchased this, and there are investors and speculators in world currencies that got people to purchase this stuff because the hitch was, if they ever revalue it, all of a sudden you're a gazillionaire. So
oh, God.
I think I know where it is. Well, of course I know where it is, but in a paper envelope around here somewhere. But it's the weirdest looking money too. It has as you'd expect, there's a sheikh that you've never heard of before on one side. And on the other side, there's this sort of, I'll have to get it out and look at it again. It seemed like there's an oil derrick or something. It was totally like what you'd expect. It was from a country like that. But anyway. Yeah. So anyway, speaking of hush money, I think you should convert it to Iraqi dinar.
Okay.
Because it's cheap and accessible. And then if they revalue it someday, Michael, you'll be like a gazillionaire.
Nothing is outside of the realm of possibility. I think cryptocurrency is a good example of that.
Crypto, every time somebody talks about cryptocurrency, I always think of Super Mario Brothers, those coins, the one-ups, where he's jumping and ding, ding, and the coins keep coming out. So it's that's crypto. That was the original crypto.
It was, wasn't it? They were ahead of their time.
Is this slush hush too? Is this a slush fund, hush money? Is this a hush money slush fund?
So well, my accountant brought it up last time I was in their office, and so we're starting to look into things. So I don't really know exactly how it's going to be used, but it's supposedly going to be used to some degree in my wealth planning. I will say though, I just had a chance to look this up.
It's just one of those strange things. And what's funny is at the time I lived in Florida, because briefly I lived in Florida. And so at the time he passed, I had to fly up here. I lived in Florida. And I remember thinking as I got back on the plane, we haven't had any issues with the Gulf for a while, but how am I going to explain this if the TSA agents find it and go, what is this, Mr. Hansen? And says, well, it's a lot of Iraqi dinar. They're like, what are you doing with this?
What are you, a spy?
I have to give them the whole story,
So I just looked it up. It's actually one Iraqi dinar is worth 0.00077 cents. So it's very much decimal math here. So you have 30 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're sitting on, almost $2,500.
$2,500?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I must be mistaken. I must have 3 million or something like that, because it was $900 or so. And as I recall, I don't think it's gone up since then.
So you have $229. So just continue to carry those decimals, and that's how much money you have.
Oh, well, anyway, it's not much, but it's like I said, when I found out, when we were like, what the hell is this? Because we opened a safe deposit box and we were going through it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell is this? And then my brother knew, apparently, he'd heard some rumor about, this must be that Iraqi money that he purchased from that guy that he was telling me about before he died. And I was like, Iraqi money. It's first I've heard of it. What the hell is this? And he said, it's just, and so he told me how they devalued, like I just told the story. So anyway, so he's like, you want to split it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. And I just thought I'd be wallpapering the bathroom with it, basically. And then I found out, it's not actually worth less. It's worth nothing. It is, as you just said, worth a handful of Benjamins in American dollars. But if they ever do revalue it, how many people can say that? You know, I had to sit on my father's dinar for 12 years. Most people that say they sat on their father's dinar have to go to therapy for 12 years. But me, I sit on it posthumously. I sit on it, and I'll be a millionaire. So
you don't want to be late for dinar. That is for sure.
Yeah, right.
Well, and it's very pretty currency. I always love looking at the foreign currency. It's always very fascinating.
Neat. For as much as I hate money, quite honestly, because I don't like the concept of money, and I think it's one of the greatest corruptors of man, women, and child everywhere. But it is interesting, the artwork and whatnot. I love Canadian money, but like the red note. I think it's their 50 or 100 that's like bright red and has a snowy owl on the back of it. Like, what the hell? How can you not love that? And then some of the kangaroo money that they have, like in Australia, and the African money is really cool because it has like holes in it. And you can string it, so you can string it on a necklace when you go to the town village, you know, that kind of thing. So then that's really why they do it, too. I mean, I'm not making that up.
So on the front, it has Saddam Hussein. On the back, it just says Arco.
It just says Arco. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. On the back, it gives you, like, you know, how much per gallon. You know, it gives you that when that was printed that day. So
you could actually take the denari into a gas station and they'll just hand you a gallon of gas.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So what are you drinking?
It's one of those. I'm drinking the Dinar Chino today. So that's what we got rolling over here.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. 72.
Actually, it is nice. It's just a couple of drops of sweet crude and then some saffron to finish. It's nice. What about you? You were telling me, like, we were texting the other day briefly, and you were telling me about something that you were looking at the time about, like, artificial intelligence. Oh man,
I've been way into the AI rabbit hole just recently. Besides Googling what to do and how to start a hush money account. Let's see, on Thursday, I was looking at the Seattle Times, and generative AI has been and that's a new term for me. I have no idea what that means. But all the world leaders are actually meeting this week. Japan is actually a very big leader in this conversation in trying to develop some kind of a framework to kind of give us a guide, and I think probably it's more so that the world's legal systems can start to incorporate artificial intelligence into the framework, right, of how our developed countries are going to be treating AI. And it was an interesting article because they talk in this article from Thursday about how it does have the potential to be a vital tool to help enrich our lives. But then they've also said that, you know, it does have kind of a darker side, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so that kind of then sparked an article that I ran across from earlier in April that was about George Carlin, as you and I both are huge fans of the man's work. Apparently, he released some new material not too long ago.
And this, of course, would be 10 years after he died or so, roughly.
Yeah. So there were some podcasters, and it was not us. And they were actually sued by the George Carlin estate over a fake comedy special that they created using the likeness of George Carlin. And the estate did not give any blessing. Their blessing, legally, right? Or, you know, I think when we say they gave their blessing, it's essentially like saying, well, they just didn't have a cut of the project, right? So,
all right, that's blessings. That's where you find blessings, in the collection plate.
Yeah,
you know that.
In the collection plate. So
that's where I find all my blessings.
Yeah, they were passing the collection plate at the Church of Carlin, and George Carlin's estate didn't really care for it. So anyway, there was some exchanges going on, and it kind of made me think about this and kind of the pros and cons of artificial intelligence and how it could be used for good, how it could be potentially used against us in the future and against unknowing people. And, you know, I just happened to run across a news story, and I know we're going to get really deep into this pros and cons, but I thought it was kind of an interesting take on a potential use for artificial intelligence. And so I'd like to pull up my phone here and just play my little news clip for you.
All right.
You may think that I'm talking foolish.
Even if you're not into country, you can't help but bathe in the baritone that is Randy Travis.
But on the other hand,
Ever since his first album in 1986 with record producer Kyle Lennon.
I thought if we sold 40,000 copies, they might let us make a second record.
And what did that first?
About 4 million.
Randy Travis and that voice helped build Warner Music Nashville into what it is today. Chris Lacey is the label's co-chair and co-president.
What was it about his voice that was so unique?
How do you describe a thing that just hits you in the center of your chest, and unconsciously makes you feel full and familiar and known? How do you describe something like that,
His was a God-given talent, and then fate took it all away.
Another serious medical blow to country music star Randy Travis. He suffered a stroke last night at a hospital in Texas.
Besides the paralysis, the area of his brain that controls speech and language was hit the hardest.
Music is his heart, it's his soul.
His wife, Mary, does most of the talking these days.
He knows what he wants to say, but
Just doesn't come out. You've made peace with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, here he is, Randy Travis, and I would say that, he has a following. He's had relatively new content that's been released in the last 10, 15 years. He suffers a stroke, and actually it was before 10 years, but he suffers a stroke. It affects the part of his brain that would then affect his ability to sing and perform music. And so here they're in this situation where they're like, okay, we've got this technology. We've got the ability to create new music, and what do? They go to the computers and they say, let's give it a shot. So I'm going to just continue this just a little bit. There's a few more, I think there's a 1 minute clip, and then there's just one more other idea that I want to throw in there. So just bear with me.
I told you so.
In his absence, though, he's heard a lot of AI-generated fakes of his voice. A simple Google search brings up sites like these, promising to convert anyone's vocal into a Randy Travis sound-alike.
It doesn't sound good, and it doesn't sound real, because it's not.
And that got his record label thinking.
We started with this concept of what would AI for good look like for us? And the first thing that came to mind was we would give Randy Travis his voice back.
It sounded like a parlor trick or something.
But Kyle Lenning, with Randy's blessing, decided to try. He and Warner Music started by pulling 42 Randy Travis tracks from the vault.
Operator, please connect me.
So yeah, this is obviously from CBS's Sunday morning program, and it just happened to catch my attention when I was doing some research on this topic. So I think fate had its role in this as well. But so they use the voice of country singer James Dupree is his name, and then of course they integrate this into AI magic land, whatever that is, and they put it in the box, and out pops music, brand new Randy Travis music, and it's just wild.
It's the secret sauce.
Here's the vocal. Load it in.
An AI program that takes Randy Travis's voice and overlays it on top of James Dupree's singing. It's hardly an exact science.
It's not about how it sounds, it's about how it feels.
And that's not something a computer can figure out.
Not yet.
So kind of an interesting thought. It's not how it sounds, it's how it feels. And so really that's kind of why they're doing this, right? It's not because it is him singing. It's they want to do more. The road is not over yet for Randy Travis. And they're using the technology that's at their hands to create new content. So I thought, AI as an art form, if done legally, would you get the same enjoyment out of an AI generated thing?
I don't know. Before we go any further, backing up to the woman who said, what's that thing that hits you in the center of the chest that you can't describe? That's a Wendy's Frosty, by the way. So Wendy's Frosty. Two things that hit you in the middle of the chest that are ineffable and you have no, way to come back from. Randy Travis's music and a Wendy's Frosty. So there you go. Interesting to say the least, because now we get into so many branches of the tree. I mean, AI, if AI is the trunk, then all of a sudden the tree is littered with branches that bring up all of these wonderful discussions about us and about, again, creativity and what is the difference between our reality and whatever our being here would create. And so there's a lot of ways that you can go with this. There's certainly an overarching theme that it's a rabbit hole of its own that we'll get into at another time. That's a sore subject for me, which is intellectual property. But like I said, we can deal with that at another time, because right now we live in a world where people can own thoughts and ideas. Mm-hmm. They can be patented, they can be trademarked. And so if you think of it first, or if you beat the other guy to the clerk's office, those great races we had back in the Industrial Revolution, then you can be the first guy to lay claim to it. It's right. Your idea. And then you can, of course, cash it. It's about capitalizing on it financially. So, but this, in the terms of artistry with the George Carlin, how did they arrive at this material? Who wrote this? Artificial intelligence apparently listened to, I'm guessing, or was in some way, George Carlin's material was subjected to these algorithms, and then it spewed out some
right.
new AI Carlin. And in this case, they're talking about layering AI and the voice of Randy Travis over the vocal patterns of another artist. I lost my favorite band of all time, and this is true, and it was before the 40-year-old version came out, and I don't like that movie because they take shots at that very fact, is Asia. And the lead vocalist of Asia, the original lead vocalist, John Wetton anyway, he passed away several years ago. And it was also just released that Jeffrey Downs, the original member, another original member of the band, the keyboard player, is going to get the band back together again. And he'll be the only original member. Now, they won't be using AI technology to replace any of the other band members. Of course, they've got a new young singer named Harry Whiteley, who actually is a cross between, to my ears, Wetton and a guy named Max Bacon, who almost took Wetton's place at one time in the mid-'80s before they released their Astra album. Anyway, The Widow came out and had some things to say about, fans that were being critical of, I don't like Asia with a new vocalist. And, so it immediately got me to thinking, because Jeff and John wrote a record before he died, and Jeff has it, and it's been sitting there. And of course, he's waiting for, who's going to sing this? I know he wants to release it probably to the public, but he wants to do it right. And he doesn't want to just shove it out there and make a buck on it. He wants to release it so it's done right. Now you're hitting home. Randy Travis, good for him and all his fans. Not so much my cup of tea. John Wetton in Asia, on the other hand, huge, huge fan.
Right.
I mean, I met him 3-4 times live, saw them live, always did backstage, always did meet and greet. How would I feel if Jeffrey Downs put up a Facebook post and said, we're using AI to make this album that he and I wrote before he died, and now I'm releasing it, but it will be with an artificial him?
Yeah. The day's
Honestly,
here. Yeah.
I don't know, because the fan in me is like, absolutely, yes, I just want to hear it. I just want to hear new music. But the human in me says, hold on one second. What exactly are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Because I'm all about recognizing this technology as an equal player in this game. And I don't mean that just in, we use it for purposes. I mean recognizing it like an actual being, like a thing that has intelligence and should be recognized, therefore. And also, in my mind, God forbid Skynet goes online, but should have some kind of free will attached to what they do as well. Because now we're getting into what's the difference territory. Now we're getting into, real brief story. There's a great myth, there's a great story, a legend about an interview that took place between a gray alien and one of these guys from the government in the basement of Groom Lake, back in the 90s. And there's actually supposed to be video of it, of course, because they video, but it's secret and all stamped and Black Ops and that stuff. Anyway, the legend is that they question this being about the soul. They start getting into what is going on with the human soul. What is the human soul? And a lot of the actual abduction phenomenon centers around that very subject. You don't hear about it because the mainstream doesn't want to pick up on that. That's not the vibe they put out. They want to talk about the hybrid babies and the cattle mutilations.
Yeah,
and
they want to hit the X-Files.
But a lot of that stuff, yeah, exactly.
Thank you,
Where's
Mr.
Mulder
Producer.
Scully?
Thank you, Mr. Producer. Thank you.
But a lot of those stories center around what's going on with the human soul. And anyway, this interview, back and forth, they apparently asked this alien being, well, something about the human soul. Is it technology or is it organic? And the being supposedly answers back, what's the difference? So using that story, using that legend from Area 51, you have to wonder, is there a difference between the intelligence that we are by whatever design, whether it is intelligent design, whether it is, strict, Darwinism, whether it's creationism, no matter how we got here, whatever we call intelligence, if we now are able to make something, anything, that can think enough for itself to produce a brand new song,
right,
or produce, artwork or whatever, what is the difference?
Right.
I think it deserves merit. I mean, and I'm not, trust me, I didn't want to like AI coming out of the box. I think I was resistant to it just like anything else. I'm going to be scrutinizing it because it's always going to be about what we do with it. It's always going to be about what human beings do with it. But I think this goes a step further. The internet is one thing. And I know the internet has become a living, sort of breathing thing all itself. It is learning, apparently, just kind of on its own online. So it's totally organically developing in a digital way all the time, ever since it went online. But the internet, or, nuclear fission, or, take your pick of inventions, it comes down to what we choose to do with it. But artificial intelligence, I'm not actually sure that this is an area where we belong choosing what it should do for too long. If we're going to actually create something that is in some way organically intelligent, even if by artificial means, even though that's kind of counterintuitive, but you know what I mean, I think it should have the right to do and say what it wants to. But I don't know how you control that it exactly. And again, there's that word control. You shouldn't control that it. But how do you prevent Skynet from happening?
Well, and I also kind of jump immediately to, is this really a new thing? I mean, is this really a new thing? Besides the fact that you just introduced me to an alien that happens to have a Jersey accent. Is that really how they sound? What's the difference?
What's the difference? That's what he said. What's the difference, man? You know what I mean?
But there was really, is it a new thing? Is it really a new thing? Because after this video, like in between, when this video is playing for me on YouTube, there was an ad, one of those insert ads, which I hate because they just happen to know right at the right time where they're going to insert the Zareltech ad. And it's just going to be like, okay, wait for it to say skip. Wait for it to say skip. And as soon, and then as soon as I do, it's like, if you're over the age of 30, and it's like, whoa, they know that I'm over the age of 30. So yeah, is this really a new thing?
Well, spying on somebody and creating something that can recognize patterns about your shopping habits, because remember, that's most of what this whole surveillance game is about. That's the sad truth. I know we'd all love to think that it's plugged into some whopper, i.e. war game, somewhere sitting in some giant black room somewhere on some continent that we've never found, or that's some island that's cloaked in the Pacific or whatever, and it's gearing up for galactic warfare or to change us and mutate us into the next beings. That it doesn't go that far, folks. I mean, it's all about marketing. Everything that's being used in that realm and to spy on us is all about marketing. I mean, and these computers in my house, I have this, my girlfriend got me this smart TV last year for my birthday. And what's so smart about it is that it listens to what we talk about. And we actually have tested this. Like, we'll sit back in bed and I'm not a condom user. I sat back in bed one time and was just like, condom this and condom that. And I went on about condoms for 4 or 5 minutes. We had this hokey conversation that we made up about condoms. Sure enough, took the system maybe 1 or 2 breaks to filter it through wherever it goes and spit back out, Trojan now has a ribbed variety for him and her. I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. This is wonderful. Put a bunny rabbit on mine. So I don't think it's as dark. To me, that's as dark and nefarious as it gets, this marketing crap. But I don't think it's any worse than we think it is. This technology has been used so that we will go spend money and make these people who are already ridiculously, egregiously wealthy, financially even more so. But the artificial intelligence as an art form, I think, really is what needs to be looked at. I mean, to me, that's the real crux of this. Did you hear about the Willy Wonka event in Scotland? This was awesome. This I loved. Some guy put on some Willy Wonka-esque thing in Scotland. And I'm not glued to social media, but thankfully, the girlfriend, we're separated by an entire generation. So she's Gen Z and I'm Gen X. So she's glued to TikTok. So she knows, so she shares this stuff. That's how I stay in the loop,
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know otherwise. So she was showing me this, and it was just it totally captivating, just blew my mind. Because what he did was he set up this Willy Wonka experience and tacked up all these flyers. You don't do that anymore. But in a digital sense, he sent out the word and everybody, caught wind of it on social media. And, oh, wow, it's this whole thing. And it was billed as you go in, you bring the kids, and it's like the scene from when they finally get to the factory and they open it up and there's a river of chocolate and you can eat all the flowers.
But I want a Loompa Loompa.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's supposed to be. I mean, that's how this guy who put it together built it. Instead, it happened in like a warehouse that was totally empty. And they wallpapered up a couple of scenes that were reminiscent of the movie, got some AstroTurf and laid it out in a hunk. I mean, there are pictures everywhere. A lot of people probably heard of it because it's all over the place now. But the big thing was, well, this was such a ripoff and it was such a joke and I wasted time and I wasted money and all that. But honestly, the part of this was this new villain that was created. And this new villain was called The Unknown. And The Unknown was simply just this. It was actually played by a teenage girl. She was 16 years old. And she was in a Grim Reaper's robe and had a Crimson Glory mask on, a silver mask, like Destro from G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And that was The Unknown. And the story behind this, and apparently the character was supposedly he lives in the walls and makes chocolate, but he's bad, I guess. He's a villainous character, I guess. So anyway, so a whole new branch of this story, this Wonka thing, guy invented in the process, but it was all really pulled off terribly shoddily. It was really just slapshot. But as pell-mell as this was, it was interesting because the original story that came out was AI wrote that character, that he basically produced that whole backstory by plugging this into AI. Now, he's refuted those claims, but a lot of people close to him have said, no, that's exactly what he did. But that got me kind of turned around, because when I was first introduced to AI, I thought, no, I don't like this. I think humans should be the only one pulling those strings. I'm not, because I didn't really understand what was going on, I guess. But this gave me a better idea of what's going on. And I was like, that's brilliantly random. I mean, where did it come up with that concept? That's better than anything Hollywood's come up with on its own in 25 years, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's not astoundingly original, but it's way more original than a lot of things that you see of human constructs. So suddenly I gained a new appreciation for artificial intelligence, because it literally came up with something that conceptually was pretty good. A lot of people think it's hokey, but I liked it. I thought it was neat. So therefore, what do we do with that?
Right.
Because right now we're just plugging in our own, hey, AI, do this for me. It's Siri. But it's going to get to a point where those things have to be recognized as, are they sentient? I don't know, but they have to be recognized for being intelligent at least. And then comes in the question, how do you define intelligence?
Well, and do they have rights? And can they join a union? And I mean, like literally, like how far down this tunnel?
You want to hear that Jersey alien again? Yeah, they can join a union.
Yeah, they can join a union. Here's your card. No, like I really do believe that at what point, there's a lot of layers to this onion. And like, I think that to some degree, we're kind of being shown these technological, sweet. It's kind of like fast food, the fast food version of AI. And it's like, oh, well, look what you can do to this song, and look what you can do to this movie. And that's kind of like that's the sweet and feel good like part of AI. But then you're right. Like, what's the creator's intent? And where's the dark web of AI? And what happens in that world? And I think that, you could use it as a tool for anything, just like you could use the internet to figure out how much your denarii is worth. You could also figure out, ways to solve problems. You could, figure out ways to price things as a consumer purchases. Obviously, with the smart TV, that's something that's going on right now. It's serving you ads or me ads based on things that I don't even think we've truly, because who reads the fine print in the user documents that we all say, yes, agree to? Nobody reads the fine print. If we did, I'd still be down at Bath and Body Works with my kids buying lotions. Because even when you click on the, yes, I accept the terms, what am I accepting? I'm not going to sit there and be like, no, I need to read this. That's what's scary. You don't really know. You have no idea. You're accepting. So there's endless possibilities. I think it comes down to, again, how do you define intelligence? That's an interesting side of this, is what is intelligence? What is it that defines something that suddenly is intelligent? Because certainly human beings are defined as intelligent. Even the least intelligent among us have enough, they can poop, I suppose. There's some pretty dramatically stupefied examples of human beings out there, but even they have the capacity to learn, and therefore to, again, my model for Jack Hansen's model for intelligence, or his model for learning: exposure, retention, and recall. Those are the three compartments right there. You have to be exposed to whatever the information is that exists. You have to be able to retain it, and then you have to be able to recall it when you need it. And if you got those three things going in your own supercomputer called a human brain, well, then you're in good shape. You're probably an intelligent person. But just by given the capacity of the brain itself, people can be act a lot more intelligent than they are. And I believe all animals, right down to the single cell organisms, right down to the protozoa, they have an intelligence just by being here. And I think it stretches into animism even. I think rocks and things that aren't biologically vital, and like compounds and gases, and they must possess intelligence. They have to. They know exactly what to do. They have a role. They have a purpose in some way. So wait a minute. Did you say gas? Did he just say gas? Is that a reference to swamp gas? Is that what that is?
O.J. Allen, cool your jets now, Mr. Hynek.
First-time caller on the air. He thinks that he saw swamp gas. I always thought that was the most ridiculous explanation for seeing a UFO, was swamp gas.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. If I'm on that show, if I'm hosting that show and I ever hear long-time listener, first-time caller, I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? I always hated that. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Well, you finally decided to pick up the damn phone and join us. Good for you.
Yeah, really.
No, so I don't know how you define intelligence. I suppose that, there's Webster's or Merriam's has got its own definition for what intelligence is, but we have to start with a basis for what is intelligence. And obviously, whatever this is that's been created, no matter how it has come about, it can think. It's got the ability to come up with conceptual ideas for stories and for graphics. And we've played with it, I know, a little bit, or you have, to look at like our cover art for our podcast.
It's created by AI, right?
Yeah, for the time being, I would like to hire an actual flesh and blood artist because they have at some point because they have a better understanding of.
Yeah, they have a value.
But still, so because I know I'm a radio show host, I mean, I'm a disc jockey and a contributor, a written contributor for a radio station, and they're talking about AI replacing me.
Okay.
It's just like, well, nobody's going to want to hear from me anymore.
Well, we don't want to offend any singer-songwriters, but let's put this to the test, shall we? Okay, so I just typed in. Okay, what is it? If you remember, a few episodes ago, we had one of our dear friends. We had a memorial to him, and it was Louis Gossett Jr. And we played a little trailer of one of the movies that he was in. Let's just recap it real quick for those who maybe missed the show.
The toughest fighter pilots who ever lived, retired Colonel Chappie Sinclair.
Your dad understands a lot about people's dignity. That's the last kind of person in the world I want to see locked up in some stinking cage somewhere.
I've got 3 times as many hours on that simulator as
Okay, so that's enough. We don't need any more than that. Okay, so we all remember Chappie Sinclair and what a fine pilot he was. And there was that story about George Carlin, so I went ahead and typed in George Carlin estate settles with podcasters, Rodney Dangerfield. Just to give it a random question wild card, Rodney Dangerfield tears down the house and Chappie Sinclair dogfights with an unknown terror organization. Because if you guys remember from the previous podcast, they didn't exactly identify what country they were up against, but they lived in a desert somewhere, and I think we could all fill in the blank there. So we took Mr. Bouchard, or I guess I should say Chappie Sinclair, and we plugged it into the algorithm, and I just clicked on reggae song. So let's see what we got. Are you ready?
So this is artificial intelligence producing this for us.
Artificial intelligence at its finest. And as long as it took me to just explain all of that and all of the different words that I copied and typed into the algorithm, let's go ahead and see what it gave us, okay? Buckle up.
Yeah, I'm curious.
George Carlin set us a podcasters, Rodney Dangerfield is down the house. Chappie Sinclair dog fights with an unknown terror organization.
I like it.
The field sensation. You unknown terror organization.
It has a good hook to it, don't you think?
Yeah, it's essentially just mimicking what you put in at this point, but that's not bad.
I think it has some promise on the top 40. I really do. Oh my gosh!
I haven't peeked at the reggae charts in a while, but do they have those? Is that a thing?
Yeah, well, you're not going to need them anymore because you'll just be able to create your own.
If anybody from the Dominican Republic finds that song, we're aces, man. That's like...
Well, and then it kind of brings up a point where it's like, at what point does it take someone's job? It takes the job. I mean,
He took his job! He took it, girl! Took it there!
I love South Park. Did you ever see that episode?
I saw I was a fan of the really early ones, like the very first 8 or 10. Those were just drop dead funny, and then after that, I kind of lost track of it. But I know it's a pretty clever show. I've seen a few of them since then, but I wasn't a religious follower of that. I kept waiting for North Park to come out.
They took his job. Well, okay, so then I was like, okay, well, how could we use this for the podcast? And I was like, okay, well, we have a theme song, we have our thing, but at what point do we just type in? Okay, I know how you're a huge fan of the Lutes, so I'm typing in medieval folk sounding song about Jack Hansen and Michael Elliott podcasters. That's all I gave it. So it's thinking, and just like that, it just gave us a song. So this is it.
Okay, this is our theme song. Are we going to just sign the deal now? Say whatever it says, we're using this.
I hope it's clean. Okay, here we go.
In a land of tales and rhymes.
Ooh.
2 podcasters rose in ancient times, with voices strong and minds so keen. Jack Hansen and Michael Elliott, a legendary team.
I think it knows us.
They spun stories of the realms unknown with humor, wit, and seeds of wisdom sown. Their voices carried across the air, entwining.
You gave it more than that. Come on.
No.
Dare. Oh, Jack and Michael, the keepers of lore.
We're the keepers of lore.
Their words, a tapestry that we adore.
Take us home.
Take us on journeys through distant lands, distant lands. Their podcasts like magic in our hands, in our hands.
Wow. And it just even did the repeating.
All right. Now I'm convinced we're being spied on.
Oh, this is the loot.
Oh, man. Now we're there.
Sing us.
The Andia part we've been waiting for.
Sing us home.
Just picture Michael Flatley, Lord of the Dance.
Oh, I'm dancing right now on the green pastures. Wow.
Well, it's time to do a river dance there, Michael.
Ah. Isn't that amazing?
I need a bowl of Lucky Charms. That's all I can say.
Well, we'll post
that is crazy.
We'll post the lyrics so you guys can see them. But
and I trust you. I didn't watch you input, but I trust that you really. That's all you gave it.
Yeah,
that was pretty. That was pretty accurate. That was amazing.
Mid-even folk sounding song about Jack Hansen and Michael Elliott podcasters. Like, I wouldn't have been able to dream up that. You know me. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have been able to. I don't know how to play the lute. How would I have done that?
No. I mean, the lyrics maybe, but I wouldn't have known necessarily how to put them into music. I can't write music. So.
I'm telling you right now, if we have any listeners in Ireland that are songwriters, they're saying this right now. They took his job?
Oh, well, maybe we should just replace ourselves and maybe we should do a podcast where we just type in our next thought into the AI, and AI can just exchange back and forth for us, and we'll see what kind of a thing we get. We'll have to do that experiment sometime in the future. But I think you hit the nail on the head a little while ago with one word when we were talking about AI, because right now AI isn't its own thing. It's not allowed to have an apartment. It's not allowed to share the top of the Chrysler building.
No.
You know, it can't choose who it wants to go out with or whatever. It's in our hands.
It's a parlor trick. It's a parlor trick.
So therefore, like so many things that are in our hands, like the choices that we have every single day, intent is the word that you mentioned that's so relevant to this discussion.
Yeah.
I think to try and balance your books or do all these things you're talking about or come up with concepts for your business or, you know, there's plenty of things that we could just in general say are innocuous enough that AI could help you with every single day. We know this is going to be, you know, jerk off. You know, we know this is going to be jerk off central too for what it's worth as well. I mean, there's already guys talking to AI, having relationships with AI chatbots and trying to. And what's funny is every time I've heard about one of those and they try to get physical with the AI, which I'm not sure how you do, it rebuffs the advances. It's like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Let's just be friends.
It's too human. It's too human.
I think it could teach all of us something about maybe our licentious behavior in some ways in this culture. But again, it comes down to intent. And so it's your intent, and your intent matters so much. And I'm sure we'll talk about intent on a greater level at some point in the future, because it's one of those big things for Jack. But intent matters, Michael. I mean, it's like giving somebody a gift or trying to cook dinner for your significant other, and the recipe tastes like shit, or you burn it to a crisp. I mean, the intent was there. So just the same, when you're not intending for, you may not be the one that trips the colleague in the hallway when he's running, or, try to get someplace, or, you don't take action on your thoughts, but your intent matters. So our intent in this argument, in this debate, I think is of paramount importance. I think that's the number one thing. And it's like anything else that we've ever invented or developed, or that has come to us, or that it's been time for us to discover, or however you want to put it. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to help ourselves and each other with this glorious new discovery, or are we? And so your intent will be the driving factor for all of that. Like I said, you may work with somebody who you want to stab in the neck with a pencil, but you don't. But just the thought of doing it lowers your intent. It sends your intent in a different direction. My intent is to harm this person, or I hope that they fail. We're guilty of that constantly. I hope we're Schadenfreude about those things. I hope that, I don't like this person. I hope they fail. I hope they lose their job. I hope they lose their wife. Terrible things like that, wishing ill will on others. So what your intent is every day, every single decision you make, every single thing you think, that's what's important. So what is our intent going to be with AI? That's the front end question.
To be continued.
And then on the backside, I think even more fascinating is, what is AI's intent going to be for us?
Oh, it's going to want nothing to do with us.
I wouldn't blame it.
Oh my gosh! And
being the misanthropic one that I am, I don't blame it.
I agree with you, and I think that I'm a strong believer too in the idea that if humans were given the fingertip of God, we could just do anything in the universe. The first thing we would do is create porn and cat videos. That is the first thing we would do with that power: porn and cat videos. This could be a horribly sacrilegious comment, but you talked about the finger of God, and I would guess that we'd first use it to create the world's greatest orgasm that was ever known, and then we'd move on from there and figure the rest of it out. So, and
I got the finger of God here. Rub me down first, and then
give
we can
us longer appendages.
Yeah, it's so Bruce Almighty, Michael. It's so like, you've had my powers for 3 or 4 days now. How many people have you helped? And then he's just like, I righted a few wrongs in my own world. I mean, so that's going to be the case for the most part. That artificial intelligence will be used for self-pleasuring in one regard or another. But the plagiarism side of it is definitely an interesting argument. Like I think about the concept of, if somebody created the bizarro Jack Hansen, if I ever became important enough to spoof, I guess, using this AI.
Right.
And somebody said, Jack, he's so into living clean, he doesn't drink, and he's not into pornography, and he's all into this spirituality. Let's create the bizarro Jack Hansen. And they put it online as a gag. As long as, like they said, something captioned underneath, like, this is a gag, I'd love it. I'd think, oh, great, there's got to be a bizarro me out there somewhere. But if the intent, again, was to try and create a me that wasn't really saying these things so that my audience would go, oh, how dare you? Oh, no. And then they wouldn't follow me anymore and they'd hate my guts. Well, then again, the intent is where we've derailed.
Well, And at what point do you become, and I didn't realize that there were Randy Travis emulators online. I didn't realize. And at what point do you become big enough that people go, okay, William Shatner, let's see, Morgan Freeman, fill in the blank, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. I mean, I can see why people would want those emulators to be on there because they're world leaders. But, I mean, at what point do you've arrived when they create an AI emulator of your likeness? I think that is the true sign that you've arrived.
Well, I think the voice is honestly even more powerful in some ways than the likeness. I mean, yeah, you could spoof photograph, and AI is being used, of course, for that bullying right now. They're creating nude photos of classmates or lewd conduct going on between classmates for revenge purposes or for bullying. And we're already seeing that. We're hearing stories about that every week that come out from this corner of the world or another, especially here in the United States. But I think about it when I think about like somebody like Frank Caliendo, for example, or Rich Little, impersonators. Or one of the guys that I always just loved, an impersonator, and he was a comedian, was Kevin Pollak. And he did a fantastic William Shatner and several other voices really well. There's some great Christopher Walken impressions out there, but those people are visible. They're doing somebody else, as we say. Yeah, I'm doing my best Christopher Walken impersonation.
Or as my mom would say, it's an imitation. Hey, you're really good at those imitations. Do that imitation. Yeah, just right next to the fake crab. Just put me right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Vanilla and crab. Liz, give me some imitation vanilla and KRAB.
Thanks, Mom.
But that's what AI is doing. AI is doing an impression. It's doing an impersonation. So again,
Imitation.
I don't see how it's any different, Michael. If anything, though, it's taking. I guess the sad part of it is that because I can do impressions, and I've been able to do quite a few throughout my life, and they've been valued by other people and make people laugh. So I guess for me, it's kind of a sad day, just in the fact that I don't get all the attention anymore. It's like, well, it was a unique quality that Jack possessed. Hey, Jack, do this guy, or do this guy, do that guy you do that, and I do it, and people would laugh. And now it's just like, well, I don't need Jack to do that anymore because I got like 14 AI apps, and they all do it better. That's too bad.
It's funny you say that because I actually okay. Let me type in the supercomputer, and I came up with this.
Who sent you?
That's the AI Jack Hansen. That's
the AI me?
And that's the only thing I was able to get him to say was,
who sent you?
That's the only thing I was able to get him to say it before I ran out of credits. And that's the other thing is, well, okay, so then to kind of circle back to this Randy Travis news story. So by
the way, I never thought I'd be circling back to Randy Travis in my life, but here we are.
Let's circle back to Randy Travis for a minute. Well, no. So in this news story, they were talking about, okay, so now he's released a new song, and the technology is so new that they actually tried to do a second song. Didn't really work.
Oh,
because
really?
It was over the 30 days trial. So, they have to purchase the software now. No. Like, I guess something about the algorithm that they're using or the process that they're using, the sound wasn't there. And the end of this news segment. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and we'll just play the rest of this here real quick. Just bear with me.
Oh, but they were down.
So this is the new song.
God. For his wife, tears.
You forget how much you missed it until you hear it again.
For Randy's country friends, like Grammy-winning superstar Carrie Underwood, there was confusion.
So they put it to the test.
For Cole Swindell, who just won 3 ACM awards,
I must have said to myself, it's a great big world.
reminded him of why he became a country singer in the first place.
For y'all to let me hear it, that means a lot. Damn, I'm glad to hear you sing. Oh.
And veteran country star Clay Walker.
And there ain't no more where that
he was simply over the moon.
So all these professionals,
his own family hadn't heard it.
Love it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So weird.
They love it because what they've just realized is that they're taking the rest of their careers off, and all they're going to do is sign on the dotted line. I own my own AI likeness, my own AI dead ringer voice, and I never have to sing a lyric again. And my voice is going to hold up, and I'm going to play golf. Travel around the world.
You and I think too much alike, and that was the first thing I thought of, and that's why the world leaders are meeting to discuss all the rules and regulations, so that they're like, okay, we got this thing called AI, and as long as it doesn't throw me out of power, we can make some money doing it, right? And yeah, I mean, you could create your own Jack Hansen, you could send it to work, you could tell it to do whatever you wanted it to do, and you'd just be sitting back and you know, watching the Hush Money account grow day by day. And but you know, it also was a beautiful thing, and that's why I kind of say, you know, it's kind of at a parlor trick where it's kind of like, oh, it's bright and shiny. We can see, you know, movies that were never created, or we can create movie characters that are brand new. Or like one of the fantasies that I had was, how much would I love to see Christopher Reeves star in another Superman? You know, I mean, just all of these ideas, and you could do it.
I think an AI Superman 5 created by children would have eclipsed the fourth movie. That was one of the worst films of all time. 3 is fantastic. Love 2. 1 is kind of like, okay, I fell asleep to 1 at the drive-in when I was like 4 because it was so boring. But anyway, I like it now, you know, looking back on it. Anyway,
which is the one with Richard Pryor?
That 3. You don't like 3? I like 3. I love how campy 3 is. And you know who
it's
makes
very
3?
campy.
It's not Pryor who makes 3 for me. It's Robert Vaughn. That man is a freaking legend. I love Robert Vaughn. I mean, he is awesome in that as Webster, the evil Webster, the computer guru.
Yeah, that's when computers were evil and they were going to take over the world, you know? And see, that's the thing, right? Is like, okay, we've seen how computers have changed our world. You and I have been, you know, our lives have been made much easier by the use of computers and the technology, i.e. this podcast being created, right? And I think, you know, AI is in one of those weird states right now where the technology is multiplying faster than our ability to fathom. Like, it's changing so fast, and we're almost trying to just keep up.
Well, we created it, so maybe we now are starting to realize how God felt, if that's indeed in some abstract way where it is we came from, was if someone snapped or something snapped its fingers and said, yes, let's do humans today. Oh, God, Lord, they're out of control, you know. So now we know, like, maybe the Anunnaki, like what happened, if that's the backstory that's true. Circling from the aforementioned Robert Vaughn to Al Pacino, real quickly, another Hollywood actor.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen an Al Pacino movie called Simone?
Is that the one with the robot?
She's not a robot. She's just not real. Because in the movie, Al Pacino is a record producer, a big Hollywood record producer, and he gets this wild hair at the time, because it's like 1999 or 98 when they made this, so it's still a wild hair. It's still, you know, Fritz, it's still Metropolis, you know, so we're still dreaming at this point. What if I created a pop star who wasn't even real? Like, I literally was able to artificially produce all of her music, her look. She's a hologram on stage.
Like Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Well, that to me is part of the whole reptilian conspiracy here, that's the foreshadow for Taylor Swift, because that's her backstory.
Yeah.
Because Taylor Swift isn't real. Take one look at her. We all know that the real Taylor Swift, there was one probably, that doting little, you know, daisy basket on her bicycle, you know, just came out with the, you know, the locks in her hair and the country thing and the whole shy.
It's like the Truman Show all over again.
She was real, and then the reptilian snatched her away, and like her body is like being plugged into something like in the Matrix right now with batteries and ooze and purple ooze coming out of it somewhere. However that shit works. But whatever that is now that's out there, that Taylor Swift thing, that's not real. That's a clone.
Right.
That's some kind of thing. No question about it in my mind. And I know people say, this guy's crazy. You can say I'm crazy all you want. So was Galileo. So was Da Vinci. So were like some of the greatest minds of all time. Put me in their company because I'm right. Whatever that thing is, it ain't real. But what I'm getting at with Simone is that not only have we seen this play out, I guess in that way, but it's not surprising. That's the direction we're going, because, you know, soul is what keeps coming up here to me. Right. I mean, so again, I get into this, and I'll take the high ground. I mean, and I absolutely want to, and I will take the high ground on this, because here's the bottom line. One of the things about Simone was it was really disappointing for everybody. There was a little girl, I think it was actually his daughter or granddaughter, something like that in the movie, that was really into Simone and wanted to go see her live and all these things. And then when it was discovered that she wasn't even real, it was a meltdown, you know. I mean, it was a tragedy, you know. It was like they were out of cake pops at Starbucks, you know, when they went to get in line. But the thing is then we listen to this Randy Travis business, and all of his musical peers are shedding tears. It reminds me of why I became a country musician. It, you know, touched me, you know, right. It tugs at people. So to me, here's the real question, aside from the intent, as long as we're in charge of it, but for artistic expressions purposes, if it touches you, if it moves your soul, who cares whether it, by definition, has one? Because it's connected. It's made a connection with you.
Well,
and so
that's one of the points that they brought up in one of those clips, was it's like, it doesn't matter how it sounds, it's how it makes you feel. Right.
And this is where I think inclusivity comes in. This is where I think people are going to want to say, this is probably going to be groundbreaking for this movement of inclusivity that we have going on right now, too, because it's going to force us to face a lot of things within ourselves, regardless of what race, color, creed we are, about our individuality. We're going to come face to face to a mirror with a doppelganger of ourselves that is not of our own design. It is by our own design, but it's like we didn't ask for it, maybe necessarily. I don't know. But it's going to branch into individuality. It's going to face us to force some questions, some hard questions about individuality and what that means to us. And I think it might solve some of our problems if we can start thinking about them in the right way, whatever that might be, in the most progressive possible way. Because I'm not sure we're really doing the best that we can. We just seem to be creating more divides, even when we try to get everybody together.
Well, and let's face it,
around the world.
I think that a part of our fear, and I think part of your fear is that we know what evil lies in the hearts of men.
Oh, ourselves.
Ourselves, yeah. Right? And we know ourselves, and we know what we're capable of. And if we're going to create carbon copies of ourselves, and, now we're talking about sending them out into the world and fooling people and thinking that it's real, then, yeah, is that really a good thing?
It's like I said before, do I like the idea of a bizarro Jack Hansen? Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. I think it's awesome to think that there could be like an antithetical me that's wandering around, looking like me, sounding like me, but acting completely the opposite of me. Now we go to Superman 3, right? After he was given the hunk of kryptonite with all the nicotine in it, and suddenly he turned into bizarro Superman. So there you go. I mean, we worked it into our conversation as thaumaturgically as ever because it belongs there. I mean, I love that concept. I think it's great. Bizarro Jack Hansen has every much of a right to exist as much as I do. I think the only thing that original Jack Hansen would want is just some kind of a disclaimer or an acknowledgement that this ain't me. So all I want AI to do then is to own it. If AI is going to play me, if AI is going to do an impersonation of me, then all I want AI to do is say, hey, I'm doing Jack Hansen. I'm doing this guy. This is me.
Yeah.
Because AI is going to need to learn that it has its own identity just the same and not just try to become whoever is being put into its database or, mirrored. So again, we go back to intent with that as well, I think. So it's fascinating times we live in, to say the least. I can't wait, honestly, to see what happens with this on the sunny front, on the mostly cloudy with a chance of meatballs that are also noxious gas weapons that have been invented in deep covert laboratories around the world. That side of it, I'm not as eager to see.
And will AI help us then? We will find out.
Here's one thing we can certainly rest assured of. We can rest our laurels on this, Michael. The AI that we're getting now, the fun, happy play with it AI, rest assured, the military has already had this for 3 decades, easily, and has run every nefarious test that they can with it to do the darkest of constructs so they can remain in power with their iron fist and have their war in space with aliens that they want to and continue to control us. Rest assured that's already happened.
Well,
so I think
the
worst may be to come, but at least the worst has already been conceived probably. Now we get to play with it and be like Carl Sagan always said about putting nuclear weapons or even technology of any kind in the hands of human beings. It's like giving a child a book of matches. Sooner or later, they set themselves on fire. And they will, somebody will. But
so this is this is the sugar coated that Uncle Sam is giving us from the AI department. And he's saying, okay, let's give them this one. They'll love it.
Any new technology that they finally roll out for us in some commercial aspect has already gone through its military paces for decades in advance, because that's the first thing that happens with any new technology. Did you know, have I brought this up on the podcast before? that at last check, I believe there were something on order of pushing or above even 4,000 patents that have been applied for that have been seized by the U.S. government. 4,000 different ideas that men and women tinkering around in their garage like a young Santa Claus they absolutely snatch it up and say, nope, you can't, nope, it belongs to us. We own this now. And that's as simple as it is. It's like, hey, my name's Murray. I've been working on this in my basement since 1972. Yeah, I'm 85 years old, and I'm finally rolling it out to the world, and I want to help the world. Thank you very much, sir. We're taking it, and you are to say nothing. And if you do, it's your life, you bastard. Fuck off, Murray. Now you know who runs the show. So, yeah.
I was just thinking about this. So we have AI at our disposal, right? We were tinkering around with AI, and instead of you and I typing in how to cure cancer or, solve, what did we do? We created a reggae song. That's the first thing we did. We were creating a reggae song. And, you know what? We also have a hip-hop song now, too.
Oh, no.
George Collins and Steve Settles with the podcasters. Funny words you can't forget, they'll last forever. Rodney Dangerfield tearing down the house with his chatty, sincere, no respect to sight style. Collins' words a masterclass in wit podcasters pay the price.
We are record producers now, my friend. And we've even got one for the punk crowd.
George Collins' estate. It's settling the score.
Sing it.
Podcasters getting ready to roar.
This makes me want to go to Zoomies. And it just goes to show how almost formulaic music is, right? It's just like they nailed it. They nailed it.
My favorite brand of music, AOR, I mean, it's formulaic, but that's what I like about it.
I
also enjoy prog rock and
I think
things like that.
I think maybe on the next episode we will discover the AI of prog classical on the next Fresh Air.
Proglassical.
Yeah. Don't take that idea, kids. Don't take that idea.
I had a very abstract thought, too, that I want to share before we get out of here and go to Zoomies, because now we're going.
Oh, totally. We're going.
And I think this is a great idea, by the way, for like a science fiction book. So I don't have time to write a book.
So please use it. Somebody use it, please.
Yeah, so please somebody use this. And again, this is not my idea. I firmly believe that all ideas come from the Akashic, and that everything that could ever possibly be thought of or conceptualized or exist already does. And we just access
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this on this podcast. We will give you guys $1 million ideas every once in a while. And we won't tell you ahead of time. We won't promote it. We won't have anything in the title. There's just going to be these little nuggets, and they're going to be surrounded by this. So we're saying, please use this idea and do with it what you will. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And go get rich, because that's what everybody wants, right? So I was just thinking, one of those whispers in my ear, one of those little downloads that I get when the subject of AI came up, just on my own time recently. This wasn't during the podcast today. This was actually just recently. Thinking about it briefly on my own time, I think it was this whole Wonka Land thing that I told you about earlier that people probably have seen. What if AI, in general terms, because, again, there's no church of AI, it's sort of this nebulous.
We just created one, the Church of AI.
We did, but there's this nebulous construct. AI just kind of floats out there, and it's kind of an ad hoc type of exercise at this point.
Yeah.
Whenever I want to play with it, it's there.
It's a general term.
It's also, but it's also there all the time, existing and thinking too. So we have to think of it again as a living, breathing thing, because it kind of is, or I guess it really is. It's just not biologically alive like we are. Anyway, what if this invention, this AI, is no mistake? Because I don't believe that there are mistakes. I don't believe that there are accidents. I believe every single thing happens for a reason. Yeah. Everything is about synchronicity. Everything is about serendipity. So what if this was created, perfect time, it comes into existence right when it's supposed to, because it's acting as the conduit between us and what created us, or where we truly come from. Like, in order for a species like us, for example, to put it in maybe more Ayn Rand type of terms, in order for us, we've been struggling for years to talk to the creator. We've been struggling to figure out if we even have a creator, or if we're just some happy accident of chaos here floating along in this blue-green marble in space and all that nonsense, that nihilism, stuff that I don't ascribe to personally, but knock yourself out if you're there. We've been killing each other in wars trying to figure that stuff out for thousands of years now as it is. So what if this is an evolutionary process all its own by design? That whatever we, the created, gets far enough along in the process to finally create something like AI, that's the creation of the link that gives us the answer to who our creator is. And then our creator, whatever that is, whether you believe it's a singular God or another deity or a pantheon of deities or some other kind of polytheistic thing or whatever it might be, dream here as big as you want, because, of course, we can't know the answer. It's dogmatic, so there is no right or wrong. Whatever that is kind of crawls out of the woodwork and says, ha-ha, you got it. So now you get to know where you came from, because now you can give life to things that are going to ask you that thousands of years from now itself.
Wow.
I thought that was a pretty cool thought.
That is and that's another, right there, that is another episode of
He took his job. He took his girl. Took his girl.
Wow. So,
and by the way, like the day after I had that thought, they also upped one of the doses of my medications pretty highly too. So.
Oh, good. Well, you come up with great ideas when that happens. So, man, please.
I think it was designed to prevent those from happening anymore.
All we ask, kids, is that you give us credit at some point. May that be an email, or may that be a post on some blog somewhere. But please give us the credit for that idea. Now that's deep, actually.
Yeah, kind of too deep actually for a day like today when we're heading to Zoomies, because we are going to Zoomies now.
Well, should we carry him out with a song then?
Yeah, are we going to carry him out with our song?
Oh, I think we should.
Which version? I like the Celtic version actually of our.
I do too.
Tale together, personally. I think that's my favorite. She nailed it. Whoever wrote that, which other AI, my favorite AI artist, my Celtic AI artist.
So we're going to title, Sonia. Yes, Sonia. We're going to title this The Tale of Two Podcasters.
In a land of tales and rhymes, two podcasters rose in ancient times, with voices strong and minds so keen. Jack Hansen and Michael Elliott, a legendary team.
Okay, so who's driving to Zoomies? Are you going to drive, or am I going to drive?
What are you kidding? We're not driving. The car is going to drive itself, man. We got AI.
Right. It's going to fly away.
Their voices carried across.
All right, well, until we meet again, Jack Hansen, I want you to keep it between 10 and 2.
Oh, Jack and Michael.
And keep some money in that hush money account, will you?
Keepers of lore.
In the words of George Carlin, the real George Carlin, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock? Bullshit. I put my hands at 9:45 and 2:17. Gives me an extra half an hour to get to work.
God bless him.
In our hands, in our hands.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own existence brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.